Hello everybody, this is Coach Jesus coming at you with another video. Hopefully we're all doing well. Hopefully we're all staying safe. Before we start the video, I really want to just talk about gratitude and the things that we're missing out on right now, because those are the things that you're probably really grateful for. And once we get through this, I want to hear all those things that you missed during this really rough time. For me personally, I'm really missing work. I miss all my coworkers. I miss all the kids that I work with. I honestly miss all the people that I get to see on a daily basis that I no longer get to see anymore. There's a lot of sports that I did, and I miss doing that. I miss having all those people that help me get better. And, once we're through all this, I'm personally going to have a real appreciation for all the people and things in my life, because after losing them for a short while, you kind of get an idea of how much of an impact someone had on your life. So if there's somebody that comes to mind while you're hearing this, try to share the love, let them know that they really mean a lot to you. And, hopefully once this is all over, we can all become closer through this. All right, so now we're moving on to the actual video. Today we're going to be working on our safety vault or step vault, whatever you like to call it. This is a really easy fundamental move, but there's a lot of depth to it. So we're going to break down all of the parts, all of the components, and then we're going to put it all together, and then we're going to show a lot of different things that you can do to build off of that. If you're working from home, just make sure that you have a surface that works for you and that's safe and appropriate. And let's get started. So first thing we're going to be doing is going to be posting. So this is going to be a really important skill because it's going to build the foundation for a lot of our vaults, not just the safety vault. So we're going to just start by finding a surface, putting our hands, and try to see if we can lift our feet off. Then after that, we can try to see if we can press up and down through our shoulders. Eventually, we want to get to the point where we can hold that position and maintain that position for a good amount of time. You can set your own challenge and see how long you can hold it. For an added challenge, what you can do is you can lift your hips up and see if you can go up and down. This is going to really work your core, and it's really going to test your strength. For an added challenge, you can hold the position and really test your strength. Next, we're going to do our hold, but we're going to add a step. So this is going to get us ready for the step vault movement, and it's also going to teach us where our balance should be. Once you get your foot up there, try to see if you can lift the hand that corresponds to the foot that you're using. So if I use my right leg, I pick up my right hand, and if I use my left leg to step up, I pick up my left hand. Alright, so next up we're going to be working on our jump and our crane. So our jump is going to be fairly simple, but our crane is going to take a little bit of work. So we're going to go through the jump real quick. So first you start with a step forward, and your back leg is going to raise up and your front leg is going to hop up, okay? And notice how the hands switch as I jump. That's going to help me get a lot of momentum. So right here, we're going to do our jump, and then we're going to try to step with one foot on top of our surface, and then we can try to set our other hand down for balance, just to make sure that we're safe. And also make sure that you dig your toes into the bottom of the block so that you don't hit your knee on the surface that you're using. So if you notice, my toes are flexed and I'm placing them on the surface as if I was actually climbing. Once you get that down, then you can just take away the hands and try to see if you can balance up there. This is really going to work your balance, so please make sure that you're doing this on a safe surface because it is very easy to fall when you're trying to do this. Once we figured out our balance, now we're gonna work on stepping up. So to make sure that we're able to get up, we're actually gonna lean our weight forward a little bit, and then we're gonna drive off of that posting leg. So if you notice right here, I'm stepping and then I'm leaning forward, actually reaching with that front hand. Next, we're gonna work on our switches and getting off our surface. So a switch is anytime your hips go from facing up to down or down to up. So first we're gonna start on the ground. So if you notice, I'm just leaning my hand off to one side in a squat position and I'm shooting one leg forward. And I'm using the opposite hand and opposite foot to support myself. Once you get a hang of that, then you can start going backwards. So if you notice, my foot is going forwards and it's going backwards, and I'm just still maintaining those 2 points of contact the whole time. So now we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna pick a surface that is tall enough for us to reach our foot to the ground. And we're gonna be doing the same thing. So our goal here is just to touch the ground and then come back up to that starting position. Once we get comfortable with that, then we can start bringing the leg back to get used to how our foot is actually gonna come into this position. Because when we actually come in, our foot is going to be back and then it's actually going to be going forwards. And when you get it all down, if you put the jump, the crane, the post, and the switch, you have our step vault. Now we're going to work on our lateral movements for our step vault. So this is going to give us more dimensions when we're actually doing our vault. So normally we go straight forward, but for this one, we're going to start it off like our step vault, but we're gonna step with the opposite foot to the outside, and then we're gonna actually shoot our initial posting leg through the center. So it's kind of like a double step vault. So here I do a step, step, and switch. So one more time, I'm gonna step, step, and switch. So here's a different angle. So I'm gonna step like my normal attack, and then I'm just gonna switch my feet from one side to the other, and then I'm just gonna do my switch to get off the block. So I'm gonna step, step, and switch. Next lateral movement is going to be our Colt. This is actually a move that was borrowed from breakdancing. So for our Colt, we're going to start our attack the same. So we're going to do our jump, our step, and our post, but our back leg is actually going to hook to the back of our knee, and then we're going to fall off to the side and catch ourselves with the opposite hand. So if you notice, I step, I put my foot behind my knee, I fall to the side, and then step off with the front leg. Here's just a quick breakdown of the Colt. So you're gonna take one leg, place it behind your knee, and then you're gonna fall off to the side. So feel free to use your hands if you need to, but like I said, if you wanna challenge yourself, no hands is always a good way to add some challenge. So here's another angle. So we're gonna step behind the knee, fall to the side, and then step off. All right, so now we're gonna be working on rotations. So please practice with care because these do get a lot more challenging. Our first rotation is gonna be a variation of the Colt, which is actually the hook. So where the Colt came from the back, the hook is actually gonna come in from the front. I'm gonna start with my post, step, and switch, and then I'm gonna hook my ankle with my knee, and then my foot that's hooking is gonna post on the ground. I'm gonna elevate, and then I'm just gonna switch back to the opposite side. So here's a slightly different angle. So I'm gonna switch, hook, post, and then I'm just gonna turn on that leg. And I actually have to switch my hands when I'm doing this too. So if you notice, I'm on my right hand. I'm gonna hook, post, switch to my left hand, and then I'm gonna just step off in the direction I started. So I step, hook, switch, and I'm back where I started. Alright, our next turn is going to be the 360. So this is actually going to be a prerequisite for our 360 vault, but it's actually going to be a lot safer. So we're going to start always the same. One hand, one foot, and then my hand is just going to come over, and then I'm going to step my leg over the top instead of through the center. So as I step and I post, my free hand is gonna come down and actually point my fingers at my first hand so that it allows my shoulder to rotate properly. So here we have the same thing from a slightly different angle. So the way we're gonna start this is we're gonna do our same step and post. My free hand is gonna come down onto the block. If you don't know how to place your hand, just make a thumbs down and then set your hand down, and that's gonna tell you where to put your hands. So once we have the hands down, our back leg is just gonna swing over the top. And once we swing over the top, we're just gonna try to step onto the ground the same way we did with our dismount switch. If you want to add a little bit more power, then you can press off of that leg and turn it into what looks more like a 360 vault. Now our Maccaco is going to be a similar concept, but instead of our thumb pointing down, our thumb is actually going to point out. So you get to see that in just a little bit. So right here you get to see that my thumb is pointing to the outside. My leg is still posted, I'm still doing my switch, and now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bridge up and hop towards the side that my thumb is pointed to. So I'm gonna post, step, I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna do a few bridges to kind of get my body ready, and then I'm gonna hop. And it's really that simple. So when you're doing this, just make sure that you're spotting the ground to make sure that you don't fall in a weird way. Here's a different angle, so I'm going to step, my thumb's pointed out, and as my foot shoots through the center, I'm just hopping back towards the side that my thumb is pointed to. Here's a side angle, so my thumb points to the outside. I take my step, and then I'm going to shoot my leg through the center. just like we did with our switch. I'm gonna bridge up, and then I'm just gonna hop. Next, we're going to use our step vault movement to incorporate rolls. So we can go forward and backwards. We're going to start with our forward roll. So to initiate our forward roll, we're always starting the same. We're going to do our step and post. Now my knee is going to turn slightly inside, and just like the turn vault, my hand is going to come down. So my free hand comes down, but instead of putting it on the ground, I'm shooting it through that hole that my leg and my arm makes. So here you get a different angle to where I post, and then I shoot my hand through, and then I just do my forward roll. Same thing from a different view. So my posting leg is actually going to rotate inside as I shoot my hand through the center. So if you notice, I step and post, turn my knee in as my hand shoots through the middle. Now we're going to start incorporating our back roll. Now I highly recommend you practice this one on the ground first, because there is a lot more risk involved when you're going backwards. So we're going to start off with our step and post. I'm going to add that switch, and now before I step off, I'm just going to lay down and roll backwards. One thing you want to keep in mind is know the size of your surface. So if your surface is a little small, it's still really doable, but you're going to have to be a little bit more careful. So I would recommend learning this on a larger surface, starting with the floor and then working your way up. So the movement is pretty much like a step vault, but instead of touching the ground, my leg that's supposed to touch the ground is just going to kick up, and I'm just going to go over the shoulder of my posting hand. Here's another view. So if you notice, the start is the same always. So I step and post, I switch my leg through, and then I kick up and roll over my shoulder. So I added this just because the hook and the Colt can get a little tricky. So if you were struggling with that one, maybe this will help a little bit. So we're going to start in our squat, and then we're going to basically lean from one side to the other, and then we're just going to shoot one leg out. Okay, so I'm leaning to the left and the right, and then I'm just shooting one leg out. Then I work on shooting my leg back. Once you got the hang of going forwards and backwards, then we're going to start to add the hook. So when our leg is going forward, I'm just going to hook my knee around my ankle. So if you notice here, I step forward, and then I just swing my leg and I hook. When I go backwards, I'm going to do my Colt. So my leg goes back, and then my foot hooks to the back of my knee. So once we have both of those down, then we can work on our turn. So this move is actually called a CC in breakdancing. So you're gonna do your hook, and then you're gonna place your free hand to the ground, and then you're just gonna turn your hips down. So once we've practiced enough, then it's gonna be time to put it all together. And right here, I'm just trying to incorporate all the movements that we learned in a variety of different ways. There's really no specific thing going on in my head. I'm just making it up as I go. And I'm just trying to have fun with it and play around with the movements. So from one basic vault, you're able to kind of add more dimensions to your movement instead of just moving in a straight line. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully this gave everyone something to work on while we're stuck at home. So if you don't have surfaces that you can climb on, feel free to use the ground. A lot of these movements, you actually don't need to have any obstacles in front of you to practice them. And feel free to work on the things that you want to work on. So if you've already got your step vault really solid, then work on the variations. Try to add different things. Try to see if you can come up with something new. Share this knowledge with your friends. Share it with your family. I really hope everyone's doing well. I really hope everyone's staying safe, and I really can't wait to see all of you again.